got this live popping the right way here. To turn my camera around on YouTube. For those of y'all who are on YouTube, it's the first time I've really been on YouTube. If y'all on Instagram, y'all have seen this before, so y'all go ahead and shout yourselves out in the comment section. So I got two lives going there. I got the IG and the YouTube going at the same time. So it looks like I'm looking at this the IG camera right there. No, it's the YouTube camera. The IG camera's over here. So as y'all checking in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. Tell me your name and a location. I'm looking mostly at the IG camera, so if you're checking this out on YouTube, it doesn't look like I'm looking at y'all, but I can see the screen. I got the iPad with the YouTube, and the phone has the IG, and then I got this phone. I got my notes. So as y'all checking in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna talk about some current events from the past week. Shout out to Chris checking in from Vancouver. As y'all checking in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. Shout a couple people out. Jeff Olden was good. Jeff, you still haven't gotten the third day. All right, Jeff, go to thirddaybook.com and get the third day. Why are we even talking about that? So that is thirddaybook.com for those of you who don't have the third day. And any of y'all who wants to attend an event, my next event is going to be May 5th and 6th. It's going to be Working Your Game Wild. We're going to talk about that in a second. Y'all can, that's a virtual event, as a matter of fact. I'll talk about that in a minute. So I'll give everybody a second to check in here, then we're going to get into it. Let's see what we got. Christian Vancouver, Kiro from Toronto. Always training in Indianapolis was good. Ron from Memphis. Scott, Connecticut. East Coast, New England. Shout out to people shouting out the East Coast. Mark from Colorado Springs. Jay says, tells me to get in the gym aggressively, please. All right, Jay, get in the gym aggressively. And don't eat unhealthy. All right, so there, I gave you both things you asked for already. So as y'all shout yourselves out again in the comment section, let's get to it. We got a few things that we're going to discuss here. Y'all might know about some of these things we're going to talk about, and there's some things you don't. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin, former 9-year pro athlete, author of 31 books. I got 2 new books that I just got off the print this week, which is ASAP Confidence and People Skills, but they're not available for sale yet. You can't buy them. So I'm author of 31 books. There's only 29 of you to buy. And I created this whole brand and framework called Working Your Game. It's all about taking the mental tools, aspects, attributes, and strategies that are necessary to succeed in pro sports and applying those tools at work and in everyday life. That is what the whole Working Your Game brand is about. Let me take a quick little boomerang of the situation that we got here, just to make sure I got this documented. All right, now we got that. And what we gonna talk about here? I did this last week. I like doing this. I think I can do it like once a week. I ain't gonna do it every day. That's a little bit too much, unless I want to build my whole business around it. But I will do this every now and then. So, CT Jams said, "Good afternoon, Dre. We need your warm weather." Well, I wish I was in control of the weather. I keep it like this all year round. But it's been we had some wind down here. It's been super windy out here in Miami. But if I can control the warm weather, CT Jams, then I will just make it warm everywhere. We got Tampa in the house. Patrick G. Why are you asking, Patrick G? Always Training says, Beanie or Jay-Z, Strictly Music. I had to go with Jay-Z. Sean Seabass says, hey y'all, what's good? Trevor Wadala, what's good? So anyway, let's get into this. We're going to do this every week. We do these, talking about, hold on. I'm just looking at somebody posted it. Got me distracted. Every week I'm going to do this current events thing. Maybe I'll do this every week. Maybe I won't. Maybe more, maybe less. But anyway, let's get into our topics. So first of all, let everybody know that my next live event, Working Your Game Live, is going to be May 5th and 6th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. It's a 2-day event. It's a virtual event. So you can do this. You can take the event from your computer, from your iPad, from your phone. Probably don't want to be on your phone. Probably want to be on the computer because I'm going to be giving deep game. This is specifically for the thought leaders, the brand builders, the coaches, the speakers, the authors, the course creators, any of you who wants to sell your intellectual property. If you don't know what that is the knowledge that is in your head. You want to package it, codify it in such a way that you can sell it. So in other words, if you want to do the type of things that I do, when you write books, you take knowledge that's in your head, you package it up, and you sell it. You make a course, the same thing. You have a membership or a mastermind, or you're coaching people. That is thought leadership. It's intellectual property, selling of intellectual property. That event, the next Working Your Game Live, May 5th and 6th, is all about the selling of your intellectual property. So that's what I'm going to be doing at that event. You can get your tickets at workonyourgame.live. If you want to learn directly from me what business you're in, the essence of what entrepreneurship is really about for people in the thought leadership business, how to delegate work. You want to delegate work to other people. How do we first of all cover the mindset and the strategy necessary to be successful as an entrepreneur, then the application and the execution to actually get it done. The first part is you got to have a foundation in place. With the foundation in place, then we can build on that with the actions. We're going to cover the foundation on day one. The actions is on day two. Again, that is at workonyourgame.live is where you can get your ticket. If you are watching this on Instagram, you can see it right there. It's a pinned comment. If you're on YouTube, then I'll put it in there after this live is over. Again, that's workonyourgame.live. So now, getting into what we want to talk about. Of course, we want to talk about the Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. If you're watching this, you probably saw the post I did, or you read my article, you saw the video I did about it earlier this week. I put the article out on Thursday. I did a video on it on Monday, like the day after it happened. But first of all, I want to talk about this cat, Eli Mistel. Eli Mistel is a guy who some of y'all might not know him. He had a book that just came out a couple months ago. Maybe not a couple months, maybe a month ago. He was on The View not too long ago, and he was talking about the Constitution. His book is called Allow Me to Retort. I'm going to read his book, even though what I heard him say on The View, I did not agree with I didn't agree with his strategy, let alone his idea. His strategy was off, and I'm going to explain why. So this guy, Eli Mistel, was talking about how, y'all might have saw this clip on social media. I don't know what y'all follow. He was saying that the Constitution is trash. That was his word. The Constitution is kind of trash. We need to get rid of the Constitution and create a whole new Constitution. So Eli Mistel is clearly a race hustler. If you saw this, then you know he's a race hustler. He's an older black guy, kind of big guy, heavy-set guy with this big gray afro. And he's there talking about how we need to get rid of the Constitution on The View. And the women on The View said, well, why do you want to get rid of the Constitution? And even if you don't know who this guy is, I want you to notice this, because strategically, the way that he broke this down explains exactly why these are the kind of people who should not be in charge of anything. And I don't even know how, well, actually, I do know how he got a book deal, but that's a different conversation that I might touch on later on in this conversation. But first of all, he said, the reason why we need to get rid of the Constitution is because the guys who wrote the Constitution, he said, they were slave owners, they were racist, they didn't ask black people. They didn't ask people who look like me. This is him talking, the black guy. He said they didn't ask people who look like me what we thought about the Constitution, because we were, at the time, we were slaves. So we didn't have freedom. We didn't have freedom of speech. We didn't have civil rights. So they didn't ask people who look like me what we thought about the Constitution. That's why we need to get rid of the Constitution. These guys were bigots. They were racist. They were hating people. They didn't value black people. They didn't give black people civil rights. Therefore, anything these guys did needs to be thrown out, i.e. the Constitution needs to be thrown out, so we create a brand new Constitution. Let me tell you why this is poor strategy, the way this guy was explaining things. Even if you agree with what he said, let me tell you why this is poor strategy. Because, number one, he was judging the person and not the point. When he said we need to get rid of the Constitution, I would have been fine, even if I disagreed with him, I would have been fine with Mr. Eli Mistel saying, look, we should get rid of the Constitution because, this thing on page 4 was wrong, this part on page 7, this thing in paragraph 26 was wrong. He would have dissected and broken down and attacked the points of the Constitution and said, we need to get rid of it because I don't agree with the points of the document. Then I would have said, fine. All right, you don't agree with the document, you need to change the document, and you have a reason why, fine. I would have been completely okay with that. But he didn't do that. This is what he did. He said we need to get rid of the Constitution because the people who wrote the Constitution were bad people. So he was judging the person and not the point. Here's the problem with judging the person and not the point for any reason. I don't care if you're talking about the Constitution, you're talking about some kind of political party, if you're talking about a politician that's out today, if you're talking about somebody on social media, whoever. Anytime that you're trying to attack somebody, something that somebody said, and your basis of attacking them is to attack the person and not the point. The problem with that is there's no person who's above reproach. There's no person who's above critique. So you could look at me and you could point out anything that you can find in my life or in my background, anything I ever published that you think is wrong or objectionable, or you disagree with it and say, well, look, anything that Dre ever made, anything Dre ever wrote, anything Dre ever accomplished, let's erase it because look at this bad thing that he did. Look at these 5 other bad things I found out about in his past. You hired an investigator, you found out these bad things about me, so let's cancel everything he ever did because I found out something bad about him. We could do the same thing about the people who wrote the Constitution. We could do the same thing about anybody that you name that you like. We can find something negative about them, And we could say, well, because they did these negative things, or these things that I judge as negative, anything they ever did should be erased. So his argument was, let's erase the Constitution because the people who wrote it were bad. But the point of the Constitution is not to judge the people who wrote it. The point of the Constitution is to judge the document itself. And he didn't say anything negative about the document. All he talked about was the people. This makes no sense. And this is why people like him shouldn't be even looked at in a position of a thought leader, because a thought leader person is supposed to, the first thing he's supposed to do in thought leading is thinking. Right? Clearly this guy's not thinking. His whole argument is based on this whole hustle of, all right, I'm black, so let me just point out that these white people were bad and that I was a slave and that they're racist and that they're negative. And that's all you got to do these days. If you want to be a race hustler, all you got to do is point out how some white people did something wrong and how you're black and they didn't give you credit and they weren't looking at people who look like you, and boom, you get yourself a book deal, you get on TV, you get yourself a whole bunch of followers, a whole bunch of people want to listen to everything that you say, even when it strategically makes no sense. That's why race hustling is such a lucrative job. So any of you who wants to make a whole lot of money real fast, all you gotta do is become a race hustler. And here's the great thing about race hustling, and I'm saying this in a tongue-in-cheek way, you don't even have to be black. You can be white and be a race hustler. All you gotta do is denounce your whiteness and write books about it and talk about how terrible the people who look like you were because they didn't help out people who look like me. And you can get a book deal, you get a bunch of followers on social media, you get a round of applause when you go give a speech, and everybody's gonna like you because you denounced your whiteness. So if you're white, then all you gotta do is just talk trash about your own people. And if you're black, all you gotta do is talk trash about white people. You just gotta come up with a unique angle, at least a somewhat unique angle. You can make yourself a whole lot of money. Now, all that being said, even though I disagree with Mr. Mistow's approach, I know that he is strategically incorrect. And here's the thing about race hustling is that a lot of these people who are race hustlers are not stupid people. I don't think this guy's stupid. I think this guy's actually really smart. Just like I think Ibram Kendi is very smart. I think Jamel Hill is smart. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates is very smart. Who's the other race hustlers? Robin DiAngelo, very smart. These people are very smart individuals. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, who's that woman? Tamika Mallory. These people are all very smart individuals. They are not dumb people. Now, they might put out arguments that are dumb, and they might make statements that are clearly strategically flawed, but they are not stupid. And the reason why they say things that might sound stupid or flawed is because they're talking to people who are stupid and flawed and people who don't think and people who are not critical thinkers. So all they do, they're basically selling to their audience. They're selling to their audience. So when you listen to something like gangster rap music, and rappers, all they rap about is they refer to women as B's and H's, and they talk about killing N-words and selling drugs and how much money they got and what kind of clothes they wear. Is if you actually listen to the things that they're saying, we listen to it so often, or let me speak for myself, I listen to it so often that the words I don't even pay attention to the words, but when I pay attention to it, I'm like, what the hell are these guys talking about? It's so stupid, the stuff that they're saying, but you get with the melody and you write the song, understand that they're selling to their audience. So these race hustlers, the reason why they become so popular is because most people don't think. Most people are not critical thinkers. Most people do not think strategically. So if you get too smart in the way that you talk, then you're narrowing your audience. You're only talking to a certain subset of people. Now there's a benefit in that. You got to be strategic about it. But if you want to talk to the masses of people, you want most people to understand what you're saying, you have to dumb down what you say. You have to water it down. You have to sound relatively, unsophisticated is the best word. So all these race hustlers, they're really smart, and they're smart enough to know that to get people to listen to them, they got to dumb down what they say. So this Eli Misto guy, I'm gonna read his book and see if he has anything of substance in that book. I'm sure he'll have at least a few points. Even Ibram Kendi had a few good points in his book. Overall, I did not agree with the book, but he has some good points in the book. But this is what race hustling is. These people are not dumb. So next time you hear somebody race hustling and you think they're dumb because the things they said didn't make sense, actually it might be the exact opposite. The fact that they said things that don't make sense to you means you're smart. They're also smart. They just realize they're not trying to sell a book to smart people. They're selling books to stupid people, and that's why it works. So that's how race hustling, y'all got to understand. That's why it's called a hustle. All right, it's a hustle, race hustling. All right, it's not like working at McDonald's where any dummy can do it. You got to be smart to be a race hustler. So this guy is just the newest race hustler to come along, at least as of now. Let's move on to the next point. Let's talk about Will Smith and Chris Rock. Now, all y'all probably, I think, saw my video. Put this out on Monday morning. I put out the video about Will Smith and Chris Rock after I remember I woke up Monday morning and I don't watch the Oscars. I don't even watch movies. I don't even watch TV. So I have no reason to watch the Oscars, but I saw it was trending. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And I remember when I first saw it, I thought it might have been an act. Just the way it happened. Because Chris Rock was kind of standing there with his hands behind his back with a big smile on his face. and then Will smacked him, and then Chris Rock didn't try to hit him back or nothing. Will Smith just turned around and sat down. Then he said, no. Then when he cussed, I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then everybody gave their responses Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and just yesterday, I was thinking. I woke up Friday morning, and I was not when I woke up, but early Friday morning, thinking to myself, wait a minute, it's April Fool's. What that whole thing was an April Fool's joke. So I was thinking Friday, damn, I wrote that article, I did that video. What the whole thing was an April Fool's joke. They got all of us. But luckily, I guess, or unluckily, it turns out it was not an April Fool's joke. And last night they said Will Smith resigned his position in the academy, basically the group that he was a part of that allowed him to get that award. He's no longer in the academy. They're going to punish him, whatever they're going to do. Hopefully they don't take away his award. But he's resigned from the group because he did something stupid that he should not have done. So I'm not going to recap every single thing I said about Will Smith and Chris Rock because all of you have shared your opinions. We've all talked about it. But a couple things I want to touch on. First of all, Tiffany Haddish sounded stupid. She is an actress. I know she has a book. I have her book. I haven't read it yet, but I will read her book. But she was talking about is a beautiful thing because it shows that men are still willing to protect their women. That's that's like some street corner hood rat logic that she gave. And Tiffany Haddish is a hood rat from a street corner who happened to become a famous, what is she, an actress, a comedian, whatever she is. That was some hood rat logic to say that. It's beautiful because he's defending his woman. Listen, defending your woman, if a man makes a joke about your woman and then you go smack the man, that's not the only. Now, is that defending? If Will Smith saw that as defending, then fine, I get it. But that's not the only way to defend your woman. And it's much more manly and it's much more professional to go to the man and talk to the man and say, yo, I wasn't feeling what you said and the way that you came across there. This is the reason why I wasn't feeling it, even if you weren't feeling the joke. Will Smith shouldn't have reacted at all to that joke anyway. And I talked about this in my article that I put out on Thursday. Y'all can find that. It's on Facebook. It's on LinkedIn. If you're on my email list, you already got that article. Is that if Will Smith hadn't reacted to that joke, nobody would be talking about it right now. Nobody would have remembered that joke. It wasn't that funny of a joke. It wasn't like some stinger of a joke. It wasn't some terrible joke. Chris Rock could have made a bunch of jokes about Will Smith and Jada because they didn't put enough material out there that we could all make jokes about it. Then it got nothing to do with her hair. Right? They can make a lot of jokes about a whole bunch of other stuff. That was a throwaway joke. It was a corny joke. It was a forgettable joke. We all would have forgot about that joke 2 minutes later unless he reacted to it. So Will Smith's reaction actually made the joke last longer. So in a moment where I guess, we don't know what was going on in that man's mind. But in the moment that Will Smith, I guess he thought he was defending his wife's honor, which is kind of what he said when he got on stage to win his award. He actually brought more attention to something that he didn't want attention brought to, and now he lowered his level of respect. Because a lot of men were saying, well, he went and got himself more respect by smacking Chris Rock. So now nobody's going to disrespect. You disrespect somebody's wife, somebody's woman, then the man's going to check you, and this is a respectful thing to do because he's human, etc., etc. Well, let's look at it. It's been a week now. Is Will Smith, since any of you who think that, any of you who made the argument that this was about respect, is Will Smith more respected or less respected now than he was 1 week ago? Is he more respected or less respected based on the actions that he took at the Oscars? I think we can all agree he is less respected because of what he did. So and now there are some people who say, well, I respect Will more because of what he did. Yeah, a bunch of hood rat people who stand on street corners. Now, does Will Smith engage with those people? Will Smith lives in Hollywood. Will Smith been famous for 30 years. Will Smith might be from West Philly. Will Smith ain't been in West Philly in a long time. He ain't lived there in a long time. He ain't never going back. So these people who try to say, well, he's more respected or he earned respect for doing that, respect from who? He didn't get respect from nobody in Hollywood. He didn't get respect from anybody who wears a suit to work. He didn't get respect from any of those people that applauded him when he won that award. None of those people respect him more because he hit Chris Rock. So all of you talking about, any of you who was talking about Will Smith got more respect for doing that, from who? Not from anyone that he engages with, maybe from the people that you engage with, the people who stand on the corner. Will Smith ain't stand on the corners. So that doesn't make any sense. So that whole Tiffany Haddish point was a hood rat logic point that makes no sense. It makes sense to type people who will never be in a room like that where Will Smith smacked Chris Rock. Now, there are some people who are jokingly saying that was Will Smith's blackness coming out. We ain't gotta talk about that, please. Will Smith ain't been in the hood again in 30 years. And at an award show with a tuxedo on, no. So let's move on from the next point. This era that we're in right now is supposed to all be about black excellence, right? Black excellence. What is black excellence? Black people showing that we can be professional, we can put on suits, we know how to conduct ourselves, we can go places and act like we got some sense, act like some people who got some money or are going to have money, creating generational wealth, and setting an example for the next wave of people to come up behind us. Will Smith is an elder statesman. He doesn't seem that old, right? But he's like 50. Will Smith's like 50-something years old. Chris Rock is 67, or 57, not 67, 57. So these guys are elder statesmen. Chris Rock didn't do nothing wrong. He just told a joke. That's what he's supposed to do. Will Smith doing that, what kind of example is he setting for somebody who's 25 trying to come up in the game? This was not a good look for black people. It wasn't a good look for black excellence. None of that. So anybody who fought that, let's knock that one down. Will Smith also, years back, he won an award for something. It was like a music award he won years ago, like 20 years ago. And he said when he won the award, I never had to cuss or kill anybody in any of my records or be a gangster in any of my records to win this award, and I won it anyway. And Eminem had the little bar when he threw it. He said, Will Smith don't have to cuss on his raps to sell records. Well, I do, so F him and F you too. Those of you who remember that song, I think it's the real Slim Shady song, like 20 years ago. Now, Will Smith just took all of that goodwill that he's built up over the years. All of this, he had this clean-cut image, despite the stuff that his wife was, basically putting him on blast and kind of making him look bad on TV, on her podcast. Despite all that, he still had a solid, clean-cut image of this dude who came from Philly, got into TV, did his music, never portrayed being a tough guy, gangster, was just a good actor, won all his awards, made all his money, and was, for the most part, highly respected and liked by pretty much everybody. Threw all of that away because Chris Rock told a joke about his wife that, again, would have been completely forgotten had he not done it. Now, his whole thing was, I never need to cuss or use the N-word, all that stuff. Then he goes to an award show and does some N-word shit. That's what he did. That was some N-word stuff what he just did there. That's something that you might expect at some local bar that's something you would expect at some local bar where the drinks are $3 a glass. You expect people to be doing that there. You don't expect Will Smith to be doing that here. It's supposed to be a different level. That's what black excellence is all about. Now, Will Smith's acceptance speech. He got on stage and he basically defended himself during his acceptance speech. He later on, kind of walked that back when he gave his apology, his quote-unquote apology. And by saying he was channeling Richard Williams, he brought up the devil that Denzel Washington told him. He brought up God has been testing me and putting me through all this stuff. I'm defending my family. I'm defending the honor of the people that I love. That's all bullshit. All of his bullshit. The reason why is because this man, if you wanted to slap that dude and you were feeling that he was out of line, which is what Will Smith did, Chris Rock was out of line, that's why you smacked him. If that's how you felt in the moment, then just say that's how I felt. I felt you were out of line, Chris Rock, that's why I smacked you. Don't go up there and hide behind the devil. Don't hide behind God. Don't hide behind your wife. Don't hide behind, God is testing me. Don't hide behind your family. I'm defending my family. You're not defending anything. You went and smacked another man because you weren't feeling the joke. And maybe in that moment he felt small, so he had to do something to make himself feel big, which for temporarily it did. But in the long run, look what it's costing him already. It's only been 1 week. This is the feminization of men that I talked about on YouTube earlier this week, is that men do stuff and knew exactly what they were doing, but instead of owning their actions, they make it about something other than them just taking an action. Jada did not tell Will to go up there and smack him, and even if she did, the man's role is in the lead. In a family, the man is in charge. The woman doesn't tell the man that he needs to go and take an action, especially when it comes to putting his own his freedom, because what he did was illegally a battery. A lot of people say assault. That was actually battery. Battery is when you physically put your hands on somebody. Assault is the threat of putting your hands on somebody. Battery is when you actually do it. So what he actually did was battery. You get in jail for battery. You go to jail for battery. That could have been a misdemeanor, felony battery charge. He didn't get that. He got lawyers. He probably wouldn't go to jail or anything like that. But even if his woman told him to do that, your woman don't tell you to do something that's going to put your danger and your freedom at risk, and then you go do it and then blame your wife for it and then say, well, I was defending my wife. No, you weren't. You weren't defending anything. And if she did tell him to do that, then he and his wife need to have a conversation. I don't think she did. I think that was just him feeling small and he needed to go do something. But that's just my theory. My whole thing is, if you do something as a man that's stupid, just own it. Even if you know was stupid, but you wanted to do it and it felt good, just own it. And every man who's listening to this has done something stupid. You knew it was stupid, and even after you realized it was stupid, you're like, you know what? I know that was stupid, but I'm glad I did it anyway. Just own it. All right, don't put it on the person who you did it to. They didn't make you do it. Don't put it on a woman. Don't put it on God. God didn't tell you to do that. Don't put it on the devil. The devil didn't make you do it. Don't put it on other people. He tried to put it on Richard Williams. Richard Williams didn't do that. All right, dude, you were acting when you played Richard Williams. And last time I checked, Richard Williams didn't smack nobody in trying to get Venus and Serena into a tennis tournament. So him putting it on Richard Williams, all of that is feminine shit, and trying to take your actions and put it on somebody else's if they force you to take some action that you took on your own. Just own it. If you're a man, own your actions. I just don't like men not owning their actions. So violence, this whole situation. Listen, I'm from Philadelphia, not West Philadelphia, but I'm from Philadelphia, just like Will Smith. And listen, the era that I come from, Will Smith is a generation older than me, or a generation and a half older than me, but where I come from, yes. Did violence occur? Absolutely. I grew up before we had phones, before we had all of this that y'all are watching. We didn't have none of this. So if two males had an issue, even females, where I come from, even females, if there was an issue, a male and a female could have an issue. There's going to be a physical altercation. I'm talking about straight up fist fights, and that's what it was. And that's the way that you dealt with things. But that's when we were young and less mature, less evolved, and we didn't have all this stuff that we got now. Will Smith is older. Will Smith has already been successful. Will Smith has been the guy for a long time, and I never heard of anybody step into Will Smith and physically threaten him. This dude probably got all kinds of security. He got probably personal bodyguards. Will Smith like my height. Will Smith like 6'3", 6'4". Now he played Muhammad Ali, so he probably knows how to fight. Ain't nobody bothering Will Smith. This guy was never in danger. And Sun says in the Art of War, if you are not in danger, do not fight. This is a simple idea that every man needs to understand. And I heard Kevin Samuels, who's on YouTube, I heard him say this. He said, power is about what you are capable of doing, but you choose not to do. That's what power is not about, you doing everything that you can just because you can. All right, that's ego. Ego is just doing stuff because you're capable of doing it and nobody's going to stop you. Power is, I could do all these things to you, but I'm not going to do them. I want to show restraint. That's what power is really about, is that you have the capability, but you also are able to, also able to hold yourself back. That's what power is about. So Will Smith really felt like smacking Chris Rock. He could have approached Chris on that commercial and said, yo, Chris, I ain't feeling that joke because my wife has, whatever's going on. That's why she's losing her hair, et cetera, et cetera. He could have just did that like a man. That would have been the more manly thing to do. What he did was very childish, and to do it on TV was ridiculous. He could have did that. He could have smacked him backstage. Nobody would have known about it, or it wouldn't have become a big story because it wasn't on camera. The fact that he did it on camera, he can't ever live that down, and there are people who are never going to mess with him after he did that. And he lost respect in a moment that I guess he thought he was trying to earn or defend his own respect. So masculinity, folks, because a lot of this we know with the whole Will and Jada situation, they have put themselves out there and their relationship out there to the public for everybody to see, that she brought him on her podcast and said, I got into an entanglement with another man. She let him know, she let her husband know on this podcast that everybody saw, I've been having sex with another man that is the age of our child. She put that out there, and he went on the show and let her tell that. And then after all that recording, it's not like the show was recorded live, right? So they could have just said, you know what, we ain't gonna put that out. No, that probably is not a good look for our relationship. It's not a good look for my brand, or why we put our business in the street like that. They could have just said, you know what, we ain't gonna put that out. Let's just cut that part out and not run this episode. They went and hit publish on that, and they got the whole world see that. Why did they do that? I don't know. I probably will never know. But they put this stuff out there. You put your business out there to the world. Will Smith kind of looked like a small guy. He looked like an emasculated man who had no power in his own relationship. He kind of looked like, in relationships, there's a male and a female, somebody who's the bitch. He kind of looked like the bitch in his relationship. He looked like he's the woman in his relationship. That's what it looked like. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what it looked like. And I feel like he might have felt like he's very small in that moment. So he felt so small. By the time Chris Rock tells that joke, he felt he had to do something to defend himself. The whole world was watching. The whole world saw it, but I think it went a little bit different than how he thought it was going to go. So there were also some black people who, masculinity, I'm not done with that. Masculinity is displayed in self-control. Masculinity is not about you proving that you're tough or sticking your chest out or
smacking somebody in the face just because you can get away with smacking them in the face. Masculinity is, there are many traits of masculinity. I'm not going to, this is not an entire dissertation. But one trait of masculinity is showing self-control. That's what masculine men have, self-control. They can control their ego. They have their ego, but they know how to control it. They have the power to do things. That doesn't mean they always do it. See, feminine energy is more emotional, is more flying off the cuff sometimes, not all the time, I'm saying, but a masculine, energetic person. This can be a male or a female. More control of their emotions. They can control themselves even in moments of turmoil, even in moments when they want to pop off, they don't pop off. That's masculine energy. What Will did there was a display of feminine energy because he was feeling weak in his masculine. Because his masculinity was feeling challenged, that joke was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Because again, Chris Rock could have told way more jokes about that relationship than what he told. That was a display of his feminine energy because his masculine was feeling so weak, he tapped into his feminine, and then he went and did that to try to get his masculine back. But again, maybe it worked for him temporarily, but in the big picture, what did that gain him? I don't think much. Now, some people, and I was on Twitter, who knows who's on Twitter? These might not even be real people. But I saw people saying, well, what about white people? What about what white people do? This was straight up black on black. Literally, black on black crime had Chris Rock press charges. This was literally a criminal act. It's not going to become a crime, but that was literally a criminal act what Will Smith did. That is the exact opposite of black excellence. Black excellence is not black people doing stuff to other black people over words, let alone a joke. It'd be one thing if Chris Rock said your wife is ugly and she's a hoe. He didn't say that. It was a joke. And for you to get violent with another black man, two successful black men on TV for the whole world to see, did not do anything to move black culture or black people forward in any way, shape, or form, or in any industry. So anyone who's trying to say, well, what about white people and this and that? No, absolutely not. This has nothing to do with race at all in the bigger picture. But anyone who wants to make this a black or white thing, this did nothing to move black people forward in a positive way, in any way, shape, or form. Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington, during a commercial break, I don't know if y'all saw this video, it's on. During a commercial break after Will smacked Chris Rock, you saw Tyler Perry and Denzel Washington and then Bradley Cooper all run to Will's aid, like to help him out and console him after he smacked Chris Rock. Nobody ran up to Chris Rock and said, yo, you good, Chris? You did a good job. You showed some restraint in that situation. Nobody came up to Chris Rock. Everybody went up to Will Smith as if he's the one who needed help. Like, he's the dude who just displays some feminine energy that he can't control himself. I would expect that Denzel, I don't know much about Tyler Perry's approach, but I would expect somebody like Denzel to be like, yo, dog, what are you doing? You just made us look bad. You just set us back 10 years for what you just did, making us look stupid on TV just because somebody made a joke about your wife. Like, what's going on in your house? Something like that. Who knows what that conversation was? If Denzel told him, or the devil comes for you at your highest moment. That wasn't the devil. That was his own emasculated feminine energy that came from him. That was not the devil. So I don't want people kind of take, again, these actions and they put it on some inanimate object or some idea or a spirit or whatever you want to call the devil or your family, or you're defending something, or Richard Williams or God. No, just own your actions. And that part, I'm never gonna go back. I'm never gonna go back on that. And another thing about the black thing, this was just straight up black on black violence. We won't even call it a crime, but black on black violence. All right, this is the kind of thing. Here's what's interesting, and I'm gonna draw a bigger picture here. When the whole BLM was on fire, right, in the summer of 2020, 2 summers ago. I remember after George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all that stuff. Everybody's talking about white supremacy and white people doing this, and MAGA and Donald Trump. And then the cops doing stuff to black people. And some people would have said, yo, what about black on black crime? I'm a person, I didn't necessarily say what about black on black crime, but I also said, look, people making all this noise about crime that happens to black people and black people being hurt. But if you look at the stats, and all y'all can Google this, black people do things to black people way more than anybody else does something to black people. Way more than the cops, damn sure way more than the cops, and way more than white people. If you are black and you're watching this right now, if you have a violent crime committed against you, or you are murdered by another human being, statistically, it is proven that that person is likely going to be black. That's a statistical fact. That is not my theory. It is not my belief. It is not my opinion. It's a statistical fact. And this Will Smith, Chris Rock situation, where a black person does something to a black person. The fact that this didn't blow up more. Imagine if a white person had walked up on stage and smacked Chris Rock. What would the headlines be then? It don't matter who it was. Any white person. Let's say Bradley Cooper, he was at the show, right? Let's say he walks up on stage and he smacks Chris Rock, or he smacks Will Smith. Let's say a white person smacked a black person at the Oscars, on TV, on stage, in front of everybody. What would the headlines have been? We're talking about it right now. There would be protests, there'd be demonstrations, there'd be people getting canceled, there'd be movies getting pulled off the shelves, there'd be people's whole contracts being destroyed, their whole lives being destroyed. His whole family would be getting outed. His kids would have to get pulled out of school. There'd be a whole situation to destroy that white person because they did something to a black person. Had a white person smacked it, don't even matter who and who. And a white person smacked a black person on national TV like that at the Oscars, it'd have been a whole different situation than when a black person does something to a black person. But when it's black on black, this, for the most part, there's not been nearly as much fuss made over this had this been a white on black situation. I'm not going to go deeper into that though because it didn't happen that way. But we all know when a white person does anything that's allegedly wrong towards a black person, people do everything they can to make a story out of it. And this is why when you get a movement like BLM, Black Lives Matter, black people attack black people. Where's BLM for this? Where would BLM be if a white person had smacked Chris Rock? They'd have been right there on the front steps of that, wherever that event happened. The next day, Al Sharpton would have been there, Jesse Jackson would have been there. Who's the lawyer dude? Ben Crump, he would have been there. Every black podcast would have did an episode about this. But since black on black, a lot of people want to ignore this and act like it didn't happen. So all of this is just giving you a microcosm of what these people are really about. And for the most part, a lot of these race hustlers, I told you already, I told you on my podcast years ago, I tell you this all the time, I told you this here today, a lot of these race hustlers ain't about shit. All they're about is themselves, and they will use any little thing to promote their own brand and their own business to make themselves more money, and it's not about helping you. I don't care what color you are. They are all hustlers. This is all about business for them. So anyway, let's move on to the next one. I got 3 more. Let's talk about NFL. The NFL's affirmative action movement. Y'all see this? The NFL getting into affirmative action now. The NFL announced that starting, I think it's this year, that every NFL team has to have at least one minority or female as an offensive coach. On the offensive side of the ball, they got to have at least one minority or one female as a coach. Now, I think I heard that every NFL team already has at least one minority as a coach on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't know what the point of this rule was, but they said now women are included in this. So it could be a black man or a female, and it could be a white female too. So as long as it's a female or a black guy, then you got to have at least one of them on your roster as a coach every single year, every single team in the NFL. This is literally affirmative action. Now, here's the challenge with this. There are several challenges. First of all, we already know from years, we have decades of evidence to prove affirmative action does not work. The whole purpose of affirmative action was allegedly to give people of minorities, people of color, more opportunities that they otherwise were being shut out from in places like schools and jobs, government, etc., etc. The problem with affirmative action is this: because you are forcing people who may not necessarily be qualified for a position to be forced into that position just because of their color, then what will happen is these people will get put into a position in which they are unqualified and they will fail. So to give you an example, let's take like an Ivy League college. So let's say every year Ivy League colleges admit maybe 2% of their new admissions are black people. Affirmative action says, I'm just making these numbers up. Affirmative action says instead of 2% every year, you got to bring in 5%. 5% of your new admissions must be black people. So here's 2 things that happen in that. Actually, it's a bunch of things, but let me give you the first 2. First of all, a bunch of people who are qualified, let's say they might be Asian or Latin or white, they're qualified to make the school. They got the test scores, they got the grades, they got everything to get into that Ivy League school. But now, because of the quotas, they said you can't bring in this many white and Asian people anymore because you got to bring in more black people. Now you got white and Asian people who earn their way into that school who won't get in simply because they got to bring in an unqualified black person because affirmative action says you had to. That's the first thing that happens, that qualified people are no longer getting the roles that they deserve because of these quotas. Here's the second thing that happens. Let's talk about the people who get in. So now, instead of 2% black people actually qualified to get into that college, Now you got to bring in 250% more people. So now you got to bring in 5% black people to that school. Now, these people who you bring in to meet the quota, they didn't qualify to get to the Ivy League school. They didn't take enough classes in high school. They don't have high enough test scores. They didn't do well enough in high school to even show that they can do the course load at an Ivy League college. But affirmative action says you have to let them in. So now, these people, let's say me, I get into this Ivy League school that I didn't qualify to get into. Guess what happens? I go to this Ivy League school. You know what's going to happen to me when I go to this Ivy League school that I didn't qualify to get into? Any of y'all know what happens? Somebody tell me in the comments what happens to a person who gets forced into a school that they did not qualify to get into. They didn't do the schoolwork. They don't have the test scores. But because of affirmative action, they have to go to that school. What happens to them when they go to college? Somebody tell me what happens. What would happen if you took a basketball player who wasn't good enough to get in the game at a D2 college, but now affirmative action says you got to put them on the Lakers or the Knicks or the Timberwolves? What would happen to them? What would happen to that person? What would happen to a lion who's been raised in the zoo, doesn't know how to fend for themselves, and then you throw them into the jungle with all the other lions and the hyenas and the wolves? What's going to happen to them? We all know what's going to happen. They're going to fail. This is what happens when you force people, when kids who did not qualify to go to a college get forced into school based on affirmative action. They fail. They flunk out of school. So they end up getting no degree. They could have got a degree at a lower level school that they qualified for. Instead, they end up getting no degree because they got forced into a college that they shouldn't have been in the first place. Thomas Sowell talked about this years ago. Y'all don't know Thomas Sowell, y'all should look up his work. It's Sowell. He's written a lot of books. He's a black guy. He's probably like 90 years old. He's written like probably 100 books. But he's written a lot of stuff about this kind of thing, that when you use affirmative action to force people into roles they don't deserve, that they did not earn, not only do you push qualified people out of roles that they should have had, you put unqualified people in roles that they don't deserve, and then they fail in that role, and the whole thing gets worse. So that's what happens with affirmative action. You make the whole situation worse, all because you're trying to prove that you're trying to quote-unquote help people move up. Here's the thing that you can do to help people move up, and this is what Work on Your Game is all about, is you show people how to work on their games, how to make themselves better. So if I wanted to help more black people get into college, what I'm going to do is go to their parents and say, yo, are you sending your kid to tutor? Are you making you're making sure your kid is reading the SAT prep books? Are you making sure your kid is doing their homework every night? Are you checking to make sure they're doing their homework? Are you going to the parent-teacher conferences to make sure your kid is doing what they're supposed to be doing in school? Is your kid even going to school every single day? Do you have a culture in your home that lets that kid know that you expect them to graduate and get good grades and go to college like the Asian people do, or like these white people on the other side of town are doing? Is the culture. It has nothing to do with the affirmative action. It's going to make people better. So to make people better, it's about the culture that they're being taught as a foundation, not what you're forcing them to do. All of that said to say this, with the NFL, they're now saying, so let's say I'm a football coach, right? Basketball is my sport, but let's say I play football. And I played D3 college football, but I want to get on as a coach. I want to get in the coaching world. And I played 4 years of college football, and I did my work. I built relationships. I got to know people. I built my network and all that. I'm trying to get into the NFL. I worked in the film room. I worked in the mail room. I paid my dues. Now I'm about to get a gig. I live in Miami, so I'm talking to the Miami Dolphins staff. I'm trying to get on. I think the Dolphins about to give me a little intern job for a nice little $65,000 a year. I'm about to get that job. I think I'm getting it this season. NFL training camp start when? August? So a few months from now, I'm about to get in the training camp. I'm about to be working with the Dolphins. I'm about to be on. Now the NFL drops this bomb. And every year they got to hire a female or a minority in the coaching staff. But let's say they already got a minority. So the Dolphins decide, you know what, now we're going to hire a female. So the job that they were about to give to me, now they give to some girl who she watches football on the couch every weekend. And because she decides she want to work in the NFL now, she gets the job over me. Who's more qualified, me or her? But who gets the job? Me or her? She gets the job that she ain't qualified to get. She has not paid nearly the dues that I paid. But now I don't get my chance to get in the game simply because the NFL brought on this woke affirmative action. This is some bullshit. This is what the NFL is doing. And here's the biggest problem with this. Sports. This is the one place. I understand this happening in corporate America. It's corporate America, all kinds of shenanigans go on. This happens in academia. All kinds of shenanigans go on there. Academia is not that different from corporate America. Sports is the ultimate meritocracy. You know what a meritocracy is? Meritocracy means the best performers get the best rewards. That's what a meritocracy means. Whoever's the best is going to win. All right, LeBron James, a good player, We all recognize he's good. He gets the money, he gets the endorsements, he gets the awards, he gets the recognition. I mean, his team ain't doing that great this year, but he's good, right? We can agree to that. Steph Curry's a good player, he gets the recognition. Michael Jordan was good, he gets the recognition. That's what a meritocracy means. The best performers get the attention. It's a big-ass bird. The best performers get the best attention because they are performing at the highest level. That's the way it works in sports. It's a meritocracy. You perform, you get the rewards. You don't perform, you get nothing. Aside from the guaranteed contracts that people have. Them bringing affirmative action into sports, they're basically destroying the last vestige of meritocracy that we had. This is the last place where you got your rewards based on your level of performance. So it's disgusting that they're bringing this in, and that the sports world, the NFL, they know better, but the NFL has jumped so deep into this whole woke agenda, this whole woke leftist, progressive, BLM agenda, that they got to go do this. And it's only going to make things worse for them. And eventually this is going to happen. I predict this. They're going to pull out of this, but they're going to pull out so quietly that you don't even notice that it happened. When they stop doing this, they're going to kill this rule eventually, but they're not going to announce that they killed the rule. So you're going to have to dig deep to even find out that this rule doesn't exist anymore. Give it about 5 to 7 years. It might not take that long, but they will eliminate this rule. And they're going to do it so quietly that you don't even know that it happened, because this is a terrible idea. Now, also, why would women equal minority men? How are they going to equate? Hiring a woman is the same as hiring a minority man. The whole concept from the very beginning was we need to get more black people into coaching in the NFL. Why? Because there are a whole bunch of black players, right? That's the whole argument. There's a bunch of black players, so we need to have black coaches. So how did they possibly come to the idea that if you hire a woman, that makes it okay, that satisfies the requirement? Instead of hiring a black man, you can hire a woman and it's okay. And it can be a white woman, that makes it okay. What sense does that make? That makes no sense. If I'm a black man trying to get into the coaching game and I believe that I'm being discriminated against because I'm black, and then I see this rule, I'm like, what the hell? I did all this work and all this demonstrating, and now you can hire a white woman instead of me, and your quota is settled. And I would think a lot of black men should have an issue with this, but most of these black guys who are claiming victim anyway, most of these guys ain't got no balls, so none of this is going to happen. And how soon? Let me tell you what's going to happen next. What happens next is not them removing this rule. You know what happens next? You know what the next group is they're going to require gets hired in the NFL? Anybody know? The next group they're going to require that gets hired is gay people. Next is going to be a quota that you got to hire at least one LGBTQ person for the coaching staff of the football team. That's coming. That's the next one. Is that they're going to make you got to hire a black person, you got to hire a woman. As soon as it's going to be you got to have at least one black person and one woman. Right now it's either or. Pretty soon it's going to be a black person, you got to have a woman, and you got to have a gay person on your coaching staff. Every single team in the NFL. I guarantee you this is coming. And then it's going to be you got to have a gay player. Then it's going to be you got to have a woman player. And then all the kickers are going to have to be women. I'm telling you, this is where it's going. This is where these things go when they start going in this direction. So that quota for gay people and females is coming very soon. And here's the other thing. Sports, the reason why I say sports are ultimate meritocracy is all about qualification. Like, you have the game, you got the skill, you built the network, you got the relationships, that's how you get in. When did wanting something? So women want to get into coaching. All right, that's fine if women want to get into coaching, but you got to earn your way in the game just like everybody else. If I want to get in, like there's a cruise boat that's parking right now in Biscayne Bay. If I want to get on that boat, I got to pay. I got to qualify. I got to buy a ticket. I got to qualify to get into that spot. Since when did just wanting something become, they create a quota that forces people to give it to you? I just don't buy into that. I don't buy into anything where somebody gets something just because they wanted it, and just because there are not a whole bunch of them that look like them there, that they just get forced into it. Now you got to hire a black person. Now you got to hire a woman just because women want to get in the game. And when a woman earns her way into the game, then she gets on. Because there are women who are coaching the NFL right now, right? They earn their way in. They showed that they actually had some game. That's how they got their job, not because of a quota. And if I get hired for a job and I know it's because of a quota, well, look, I'm happy to get the check, but at the same time, I feel like I'm lesser than everybody else in there because they all earned their way in, and I just got handed my job. I didn't have to earn mine. All right, how would you feel when you got a job that you didn't even have to earn, and everybody in the room knows you didn't earn it? As soon as you get in an argument with somebody in there, they're going to throw that in your face and say, look, the only reason you even here is because you're a quota hire. I really hired you because of the affirmative action quota, not because you're actually good. And everybody in the room knows it. So what are you going to say? All right, so that I ain't feeling. Two more things. Colin Kaepernick. Y'all heard about this? Colin Kaepernick is now for the University of Michigan spring football game. He's going to be an honorary captain of one of the teams for the spring football game. Now, this is not even really that big of a thing because the spring football game is just one game. But this is the coach over there, Jim Harbaugh. He's doing too much. So he hired a girl. You might not know about this. Jim Harbaugh was a coach at Michigan football. He hired a female who just got done playing 4 years of college basketball to be on his coaching staff. Now, he's the football coach, not the basketball coach. He hired a girl who just got done playing 4 years of basketball to be on his football team's coaching staff. Here's my first question. What the hell does this girl know about football? What does she know about football? She was just playing basketball for 4 years. Why is she getting on the coaching staff of a football team? Now, granted, her brother is on the football team at Michigan, so maybe that's part of it, kind of, sort of, but who the hell cares? Your brother's on the football team, what I got to do with you? What does she know about football? And what is she going to teach any of those young men about football? Probably nothing. Probably nothing. But Jim Harbaugh, this is what he does. So he does that, hires a girl, then this is what he does. He gets Colin Kaepernick to be an honorary captain of the football team for the spring football game. Now, Colin Kaepernick, he put out a video not too long ago to show him throwing some passes and saying, I'm still ready, etc. So whatever. This dude's like a mascot now. Now he's basically pouring himself out as the most popular martyr in the world. Now he's going to be a mascot team captain for a spring football game. Like, are you trying to play in the NFL or not? We all know he's really not trying to play in the NFL. He just keeps saying that because it sounds good. It keeps his name in the news, keeps his name in the headlines, so maybe he can get some attention to do his things. But this guy has just made himself into a mascot now. Right now, you're like he's like Miami Heat got Bernie. Philly's got Philadelphia Fanatic. He's like Ronald McDonald now. He's a mascot. That's why he's made himself into a mascot. Somebody just wants to make sure they look woke. Call Colin Kaepernick. He'll make a little appearance. He'll smile. He'll take a couple pictures. Hold his fist up in the air. And if they had a national anthem before the game, what's he going to do? Is he going to take a knee? What are they going to do? So Colin Kaepernick has made himself into a mascot now. It's a sad state of affairs for where he's at. I wish he would just say he wanted to play in the NFL. He should have took the offer that they gave him a couple years ago. But anyway, last thing, Disney. Disney has decided that they are going full LGBTQ. Now, I planned to go to Disney World this year. I ain't been to Disney in a minute. I wanted to go to Disney. I still got to decide. I might still go to Disney, but this made me think about it if I want to go to Disney. Because they have announced, and they didn't announce this, they said it internally, but the video got leaked, that they are going full LGBTQ. In other words, y'all might not have heard about this. When you go to Disney now, right? And Disney, you bring your kids and family and all that. When you walk to an attraction and one of the workers comes across you, they are no longer going to say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. They're not going to say that anymore. They're not going to say any words that refer to a certain gender. So ladies and gentlemen means females and males, boys and girls, males and females. They're not going to use those words anymore because that could make people who are gender binary or gender, whatever, pansexual, whatever, I didn't even know that was a word. People who are it's going to make them feel uncomfortable. So they're going to use words that are more inclusive so that everybody feels included when they say this. So no more boys and girls. You go to Disney, there want to be no more boys and girls, no more ladies and gentlemen, because they want to make sure they're more inclusive of everybody who has certain gender roles or gender identities. That's crazy. And here's the other thing they're going to do. They're going to make sure that half of their lead characters in anything that they create, whether it's a TV show, a documentary, a movie, half of the characters in their creations need to be gay or lesbian or transsexual. Did y'all notice? Disney just had these conversations in this past week. This guy got the video from, it's like Zoom calls, but the video got leaked and they were putting this stuff out on social media, so everybody has seen this. This is what Disney's doing now. So Disney's going full LGBTQ. And I've read this article, I posted this on Twitter yesterday, that this is a guy who works there at Disney, and he is gay himself. And he wrote about how he actually disagrees, because this whole thing is based on the bill that came out that I talked about last week, which was HB 1557, which is the Florida don't say gay bill, but it's actually the word gay is not even mentioned in the bill. It's only 7 pages long. All y'all should read it. I got an episode of my podcast coming out this upcoming week about that very bill, where I dissect it and explain it to y'all how they're basically pulling the wool over all of your eyes if y'all don't know what's going on, being informed. That they're just trying to prove how woke they are, and they're going against Governor DeSantis, the governor down here in Florida, about the Don't Say Gay bill, because Disney is all about affirming people of all genders and this, that, and the third. It's all bullshit. It's all one big game that they're playing everybody. This is some bullshit that Disney's doing. I don't think Disney's going to survive this. I don't think Disney's going to go out of business. What I think they're going to do is, just like the NFL, they're going to quietly roll this back. They're not going to announce it. They're going to quietly roll this back to the point that you don't even notice that they rolled it back, but they're going to roll it back. So this is not going to work in the long run for Disney. So this is ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. And all of y'all who have kids, I don't know what y'all are doing with y'all kids these days. Somebody who has kids, tell me what you're doing. If you got kids who are under age 15, let's just say, what do you do with your kids these days when it comes to media? Because now on TV, and this is what the guy from Disney was saying on the Zoom call, is that media is the way that kids can be taught. So we need to take control of that, and we need to put more gay and lesbian and transsexual people in our TV shows, Disney this is, so that we can start getting into these kids' minds and help them understand that gay, lesbian, transsexual is a thing. What do you do as a parent when every TV show is doing this, and they're showing you gay this and lesbian that and transsexual that, and schools are fighting to be able to teach gay, lesbian, transsexual stuff to your second grader, and the schools are fighting for this, their government fighting for this, their politicians fighting for this, their TV people fighting for this. Why are you doing this? Not why are you doing this, but what do you do as a parent in this situation, knowing that you have kids who you want them to just grow up and just be regular kids like we were, and then we can find out about the LGBT stuff later, and yeah, if you're LGBT, fine, but don't condition me to become it. That's what I think's happening. And this guy who's gay, he works at Disney and he's gay and he disagrees with Disney. Here's what he said. He actually showed this statistic. Since over the last 20 years, check this out. The number of girls who have decided to become trans has increased by 4,000% over the last 20 years. 4,000% over the last 20 years. Now, how is that? Now, is that because all of a sudden there's more people just being born, chemically gay? Absolutely not. It is because it's being taught more. Since more people are being taught to be gay, more people are ironically, amazingly, becoming gay because they're teaching more gay. So this whole thing is to make more and more people gay by teaching more people about being gay. And people are just deciding, you know what, I'm gay. You know what, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. I'm not a girl, I'm a boy. I'm not a girl or a boy. I'm non-binary. I'm queer, whatever the hell that means. And y'all should read this article that this guy, I posted on my Twitter. It's my Twitter's Dre All Dead. The articles are actually a pretty long article, but it's actually really worth the reading because this is a gay person writing. So it's not some person arguing against something that they're not. This is him speaking for himself and saying he still doesn't go with it. So it's crazy what they're doing right now, and just trying to teach everybody to be gay. So I don't know any of you who are parents what y'all gonna do in this situation, but it's crazy out here. You might have to homeschool your kids. You got to censor every single thing that they're watching and reading, and you can't leave them around any other adults because every adult now, not every adult, but a lot of adults are trying to teach kids to be gay. Why is this? I'm just trying to figure out what the end game is here. What's the big point of trying to teach kids to be gay? They want everybody to be gay. I understand for the politically, Democratic Party wants everybody gay because then they feel like, all right, Democrats are for the gay people. No, Obama opened the doors for this, so we got to blame Obama for this. And that's going to keep them voting Democrat, keep the Democrats in power. I get that part, but what about a school teacher and maybe a school teacher support the Democratic Party? Who knows? This is crazy. All this is crazy. So who had a question or a comment, go ahead and post it. I will address some questions and comments. Somebody want to come on live, go ahead and request somebody bring you on. So the whole gay part is kind of crazy for anyone who's a parent or anyone who cares about young kids. They're just trying to teach everybody to be gay. And transitioning says white women are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action. Yeah, exactly. That's been proven over the years. Transition G, I know what you're talking about. So, yes. has been proven that white women benefited more from affirmative action than even black people did. But black people think affirmative action. Some black people think it was for them. King Leak said they do it on Cartoon Network too. Yeah, I heard about that. That they had. I saw the little cartoon clip where it was the girl who was saying, "I'm from a marginalized community and I'm black," and it was like they were explaining this shit to the white person in the cartoon, and it was for like 2-year-olds. And I'm like, this is what they're teaching people? That's crazy. Money May says the woke generation wouldn't survive the 90s and the 80s. Well, the woke generation couldn't have existed. Yeah, that's why it exists now. Flawed worshiper, I appreciate you. Glad you called on. All right, so I just talked for an hour straight. I did like a 2-hour call for my Bulletproof Mastermind earlier today. So a couple of things again. My Work on Your Game live event is May 5th and 6th. That is the link right there. If you're watching this on Instagram, it's workonyourgame.live. That is a 2-day event for the thought leaders, brand builders, authors, speakers, coaches, course creators, for anybody selling intellectual property. Randy says, what's my stance on the gay community? Am I against gay people or what? I'm bisexual, but can assure you I wasn't taught that. I don't have a stance on the gay community. There is no stance. What I'm talking about here, Brandy, is that a lot of adults are trying to teach the LGBTQ lifestyle to kids who otherwise are not even thinking about that. And it seems like they're just trying to mold and condition kids into being gay from a very early age, and I'm trying to understand why. Ron DeSantis' bill is designed to give parents control over what's being taught in the schools, and his political opponents and schools are trying to fight against that by trying to make it seem as if Ron DeSantis is anti-gay when that's not even what the bill is about. And I broke that down in detail. I talked about it last week on this, and I'm going to talk about it on my podcast this week. And anybody can go read the bill. It's called HB 1557, Florida. Google it, look it up, read it. It's only 7 pages. Everybody can see it. There's nothing in that bill that says you can't talk about being gay. It says you don't teach sexual lifestyle stuff to kids who are in kindergarten. That's what the bill says. Literally, that's what it says. So that's the part that I'm talking about here. That people trying to indoctrinate kids with the LGBTQ lifestyle, and I'm trying to understand why. Why is it so important for them to indoctrinate kids to be gay? It's been a 4,000% increase in girls deciding that they are boys over the last 20 years. That's because it's being taught to them, not because more girls are actually boys. It's because they have decided that that's what's being taught to them. So that's the part that's Brandy, so I can understand. Even though I'm bisexual, I don't think it should be pushed on kids. So Brandy, let me ask you a question. Brandy, can you come on live? I want to talk to somebody who is in the LGBTQ community. Are you willing to come on live? I want to ask you some questions. If you're willing to, you let me know. Come on. I want to ask some questions. So we'll see if Brandy Moore is willing to come on. And because I got some questions about the LGBTQ community. Or somebody who is at least a member. You're at work, you can't. Okay, so Brandon, let me ask this question. You leave it in the comments. When did you know that you were bisexual? How did you find out? And then, what did you do? How did you know that you were bisexual? Were you bisexual when you were like 2 years old? Did you find out when you were like 15? Were you an adult? What'd you do? And how did you find out? And how did you get like educated on the fact that it even existed? How did you know that you were interested in both sexes? I'm interested to know that. So while we wait for Brandy to get that answer, again, Work on Your Game Live is May 5th and 6th. I'm going to do these live streams maybe once a week. I like doing them on Saturdays, so I might do it most Saturdays. You do your attraction of the same sex in kindergarten. Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's interesting. So anybody else got a question or comment, go ahead. And yes, Ashley, I'm going to put this live up on, it'll be on my IG Lives. It'll be in the live tab on Instagram. And I'll put the video on YouTube too. Brandon said Bruce Lee is very social. Yeah, I've heard Bruce Lee talk about this topic. Brandon said I've always knew, I just suppressed it. Okay, got it. So I've heard some people say that there's they were born that way. They always knew, they just didn't know how to express it, and then they felt comfortable expressing it and living it. And then other people, I don't know. I haven't heard enough people talk about it, so let me not say. So DW Pius says, a lot has changed in my life. Restrictions are lifted in Canada. Y'all finally got your freedom back in Canada after 2.5 years. Congratulations. Recently finished college. I remember your advice. Congratulations to you on finishing college, on on a serious note. And congratulations to everybody in Canada for getting your freedom back after 2 years of lockdowns. Ashley said, do I plan on having kids in this day and age? TBD, we'll see. To be determined. But if I do, I gotta have control over what they're being taught and all that stuff. It's crazy right now. It's crazy right now what the teacher's trying to do. I might have to homeschool. I have kids, I might have to homeschool my kid. I had to be a teacher. I can't send my kid to no school. If somebody try to teach my kids some gay stuff, I'm gonna have to run up in the school and kick down doors and all that. It's gonna be a problem. Randy said, I'm bisexual, so don't get it twisted. I love dick too. All right, we got it. Money May says, our freedom in Canada will potentially be short-lived. Well, any of y'all in Canada who's worried about your freedom, you better move to the USA while you can. Right now, you got the freedom to move about. You better do what you gotta do before they lock it down all over again. Come down to Florida. It's free. We've been free here since the pandemic started. The pandemic, let me use air quotes, the scamdemic started in March of 2020. By August, most of the restrictions were lifted. I mean, you still had people, like businesses, you had to wear a mask and all that stuff. But for the most part, you could walk around Florida and live completely free when you wouldn't even know nothing was going on. Since August of 2020. It's April of 2022 now. It's wide open now. So I can't remember the last time I went somewhere that said you need to wear a mask. I see people wearing them every now and then, but I ain't wearing no mask. I'm not wearing a mask getting an Uber. I'm not wearing a mask to go inside of a business, none of that shit. Anywhere that says I gotta wear a mask, I ain't going. Only place I would wear a mask if I had to go was on an airplane right now, but I heard all the airlines are trying to tell Biden, like, drop that because we don't need that anymore. That's the only place I would wear a mask is if I get on the plane. But other than that, anywhere that says mask, I am not going. Randy says, let's see. King League says, I've ever heard of humanism. I've heard of it, I don't know what it is. Randy says, what after all your hard work, your son and daughter comes to you, has the courage to tell you that they are gay or bisexual? I wouldn't have a problem with it as long as it was their choice, Brandy. As long as they got it from their own thought and their own living. I would have a problem with it if I send my child to a school and they don't know anything about gay, straight, they don't even know that that stuff exists, and then their teachers start teaching it to them. That is what I would have a problem with. I would have a problem with somebody trying to teach them that stuff when they didn't even know what it was from the beginning. That's the thing that I would have a problem with. So it's the bill in Florida, HB 1557, says that schools cannot teach they shouldn't be given any type of sex education to kids in kindergarten through third grade. That's what the bill says. And I agree with that because from kindergarten through third grade, I mean, I knew I liked girls from a very young age, but I didn't get any sexual education. First time I got a sexual education class ever, I was in like 5th grade. So I was 10 years old by that point. That's when sex ed started, was in 5th grade. And the teacher would just he'd start talking about things like being sexually aroused and stuff like that. But it was done in a responsible way. And I don't remember him teaching anything about being gay. And at that time, now, of course, that was a different time. But at the same time, kindergarten, a kindergartner's brain is not developed enough to even understand what the hell you're talking about, let alone to teach them that they're gay or transsexual. So, no, that's ridiculous. So that's why I had questions when I heard when Dwayne Wade came out and his son decided they were a girl and Dwayne Wade and his wife were supporting it and all that stuff. I'm like, your kid's like 10, 11, 12 years old, whatever age that child was, and they decided that they're gay and this is going to be a life choice and you're going to support. Like, how did they even know? Like, what were they had to have been learning that for some time before they got to that point. So who knows? I had questions. Like I said, I'm not against it. I just had questions, which I haven't looked, but I haven't heard Dwayne Wade talk so much about it, how they knew. I heard him say a few things, but who knows? But I want my kid, they would need to figure that out on their own when they're old enough to kind of think for themselves and formulate their own thoughts. A 2nd grader is not old enough to do that, as far as I'm concerned. Even if they have the feelings, like you said, Brandy, you always knew, but you had to get old enough to a point that you could express it and explain it to somebody. And at 6 years old, you probably couldn't explain that to anybody. Brandy, let me ask you, how old were you when you started telling people that you were bisexual? When you told like an adult, a parent or an older sibling, how old were you when you first told somebody and you could actually put the words together to explain it? That's what I want to know. because I don't understand how a second grader could explain to somebody that they're gay. Arbino was good. DW Pez says the Fed mandate still in place is tyrannical. Yeah, that's crazy. King Lee said, what about a hospital? I don't really go to hospitals, but if I went to a hospital, yeah, I guess I would go to hospitals. Joy said, you know, Dwayne Wade's youngest son had a white gay man babysitter growing up? No, I did not know that. How do you know that, King Lee? Is that verified information? He had a white gay man babysitter? Yeah, I never heard that. And how do you know that that's true? I need to know that that's verified information. All right, did you get that from the streets? So you get shamed for having questions. That's a fact. Fall Whisperer says, I respect any business that has their rules of wearing a mask. It's their business, so they can run it how they want. And if I like their price, I will shop there. I won't. Fall Whisperer. I won't. I'm not respecting. I will respect the fact that they say wear a mask, but I'm not going in there. I will not buy there. And a lot of companies started dropping their mask mandates when they realized that other places were dropping theirs, and they're like, all right, customers ain't coming in here, they'll be making them wear a mask, so how about we drop the mask mandate? And now more people will come into our business. Mask mandates stop people from coming into businesses. And everybody knows that the masks don't actually do anything. That's the biggest deal that the mainstream media won't tell you. Masks do not do anything. If you can smell something through a mask, then how is it going to block the particles of a virus? It doesn't make any sense. The masks don't actually do anything. Wearing a mask is a signal. It's like a social signal is what it is. It's not actually doing anything for you medically. But you can't tell that to somebody who insists on wearing a mask. But if they want to wear it, fine. But I ain't wearing a mask. That's all I'm saying. Yes, DW Pies, I agree with that. That swimming thing was crazy. I talked about that last week. King Lee said, I watched a YouTube video of someone pulling it up on Dwayne Wade's Instagram a while back. Well, yeah, that's crazy. Maybe that's the reason why. That might have a little bit something to do with it, King Lee. I never heard about that, so that might have something to do with it, but who knows? I guess it's too late now. I guess it's too late now. Nothing we can do about it. Somebody says on somebody's YouTube channel, I don't know who that is, but I'll take your word for it. It's true. For all I say, you have a right to that. There's a huge number of people who appreciate the mask who disagree to disagree. No, I appreciate the mask. I'm just telling you what I appreciate the mask for. The mask is a social signal to show everybody else, hey, I'm doing this thing to save lives, like a mask. But we all know on a logical level, the mask does not stop anything from actually occurring. That wearing that mask will not block you from getting the virus if that's the reason why you're wearing it. If you're wearing it because you want to show to other people that you're wearing a mask, I'm fine with that. But on a logical level, there's nothing to agree to. That's just a fact. It's a scientific fact. The mask doesn't do anything. So there's nothing to agree or disagree about. Ben says, literally printed on the box, will not protect against COVID-19, and they still mandated. Yeah, exactly. Virtue signaling is the phrase that I was looking for, yes. It literally says on the box that this mask, like, let's talk about masks since this got brought up. The blue surgical mask, right, that people wear before the scamdemic. The only time you ever saw that mask was on doctors in a hospital. And sometimes Asian people will wear it. I've traveled around the world. I've seen Asians wearing it in airports, like overseas and stuff. They will wear it. But in America, nobody wore that mask. The only time somebody wore that mask is a doctor or a surgeon would put the mask on when they were operating on you. Now, why did they wear the mask when they were operating on you? Not because they're trying to stop breathing things in. They wore the mask so that when they were talking, because if any of you ever had surgery or you ever seen a doctor performing, even on TV, when a doctor is performing, they be talking. So they don't want like any spit particles to fly out of their mouths to get inside of your body, because that might infect the area that they're working on. So if they open you up and they're working on your stomach, they don't want you to be opened up and then a doctor say something and something out of his mouth goes into your stomach and that could infect you. That's the purpose of the mask. That's all the mask does. The mask is a blocker of physical particles. That's what the mask does. It blocks physical particles. It does not block people where they've had people, if you're getting operated on, you wore a mask. But I've been in hospitals plenty of times before the scamdemic. I didn't have to wear a mask. The person who was being operated on wore a mask. And the doctor who was doing the operating and the people working on your body, like they're working on your knee, they wore a mask so that if they're talking, nothing comes out of their mouth and gets into your body, inside of you, because you're opened up. That's what the purpose of the mask is. That's the only reason surgical masks is. That's why it's called a surgical mask. It's not a virus mask, it's a surgical mask. It's the purpose of blocking anything getting into you while we're performing surgery. The very definition of what surgery is opening up your body. So we don't want any foreign particles getting into you. In a room where surgery happens, it's a sterilized area. Anybody who knows anything about hospitals knows that that's how it works. All right, this is not a theory. This is not a theory. Whoever's asking that question. Oh my, can y'all hear me now? My phone was ringing, so I think it cut me off with my phone. Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Somebody leave a comment. Can you hear me now? Y'all still can't hear me? What about now? Can you hear me 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 now? Let's see if people can hear me. Say they can't hear me. What about now? No? I think because my phone rang. It might be the phone. But I just turned it off. Let's see. What about now? Can anybody hear me? Somebody on YouTube, I know y'all can hear me, but my phone rang, and I think it might have stopped my audio because my phone rang. I don't know if there's a way to turn it back off. Instagram muted. No, it wasn't Instagram. It was my phone's ring. Somebody called my phone. And then it cut off. Let me see. Let me see. Can you hear me now? What about now? Anybody hear me now? Can anybody hear me? So now we gotta try to get the audio back. Let's see. Yeah, if you're on YouTube, I know y'all can hear me. I'm trying to get Instagram to hear me. They're saying that they can't hear me. Somebody called my phone, and it I think it might have cut off my audio. What about now? Sound is back. Y'all can hear me now? All right. I don't know what I did to make it work, but anyway, it started working. What's the last thing you said? All right. So no, that was not Instagram that cut off my sound, y'all. That wasn't Instagram. Somebody called me. Somebody called my phone on FaceTime because they called me on FaceTime. The sound went out. I don't know how I stopped it, but it came back. I don't know how I started it back, but it came back on. But anyway, what I was saying was that the mask, the blue mask, it is literally called a surgical mask. That's what it's called. It's called a surgical mask. The purpose of a surgical mask is to keep anything that comes out of the mouth of the operator from getting into your body while they're performing surgery. Surgery means opening up your body. So they don't want any foreign objects, foreign particles to get inside of your body. That's why you wear the mask, to block physical objects from flying out of your mouth and getting inside of the patient's body. That's why it's called a surgical mask. It is not a virus mask. It's not a breathing air mask. It's a surgical mask. That is the purpose of the mask. It is not. It cannot block breath particles. So a virus is a particles that float through the air. That mask does not block them. And it literally, somebody left a comment. It says it on the box. It does not block particles. And then if you wear that mask, that was acceptable. You could go to the Heat game. You could go to a business. You go to a restaurant. You get on a plane and you could wear that mask as if it was doing anything. It's not doing anything. And everybody's known this ever since the scamdemic started. And everybody went along and had to play along with this shit. It's ridiculous. But that's why I'm glad I live in Florida, so we didn't have to deal with this shit. All right, so let's see. DW says, my audio cut out. I couldn't hear your thoughts about Cassidy Campbell and Alex Stein Savare's video. I don't even know who that is, so I don't even know who they are. So I don't have any thoughts about that because I don't even know who those people are. Somebody said about the N95 mask. No, I think the N95 mask is actually designed to block particles, Money Man. I think it is, but here's the thing. Where was the N95 mask ever required? The only thing that was required during the majority of this scam was a mask, period. It didn't matter what it was, right? It could be a cloth mask. It could be that blue mask, which does nothing. It could be people made masks. People design their own masks. Any kind of mask. It didn't matter what it was. I went to an event and they gave out masks with like their company logo on it. Is that blocking anything? Probably not. It could be any mask. So there was no place that said you have to have an N95 mask because it was reported that the N95 mask does actually block particles. But wherever did you go that they said you had to have a mask and it has to be this kind of mask? Nowhere. Nobody ever said that. So the one mask that might have actually worked to block stuff, nobody was ever required to wear that one. You could wear the bullshit mask and that was okay because it was all a virtue signal. That's the whole point. The whole point was just to show everybody else that you're wearing something on your face, even though wearing that thing did absolutely nothing. I remember 2 times in my building, I got on the elevator, right? And there was a guy in there. Twice this happened. There was a guy in the elevator and he had a mask on. And I got on and I didn't have a mask on. He said, "Yo, do you have a mask?" And I didn't say no, I just looked at him. And he said it again. And I just looked at him again and he got off. He got off the elevator. I guess he was scared to be standing next to me without a mask on. And one time this woman did it. I remember we were at the lobby and this older woman, she had like these 2 little Pomeranian dogs. And she had these 2 Pomeranian dogs. I get on the elevator, I don't have a mask on. She was already in the elevator and I got, the door's about to close and you running, jump in. So I jump in and she's like, "Do you have a mask?" And I just looked at her. Both times I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. She pointed to her face like, "Hey, you're supposed to wear a mask." Because there's a sign in the elevator that says you must wear a mask. Fuck that sign. I didn't say anything. I still didn't say anything. She's like, "You don't have a mask?" She said it again. I still didn't say nothing. And she got off the elevator. And when the doors were about to close, she was standing there. She was looking at me. This is early in the whole scam thing. This is early. She's like, "Aren't you scared?" She's like, "I'm scared. Aren't you scared?" And I just started laughing. I was like, "No." And then she let the door close. That was funny. But anyway, this is what the scamdemic did. It made people afraid of even being around other humans because they were afraid of air. The thing is, I mean, if people could just read and just think critically, a virus is not something that you only get just because you're standing next to somebody who might have it. A virus can live in the air. So like, if I get in the elevator right now in my building and I got the virus and I breathe in the elevator, the particles of that virus are going to sit there in that elevator for hours. So even if I get in by myself, get off, you get on the elevator 20 minutes later, you can still get the virus that I left in there because the particles just sit there in the air. It's not like you got to be standing next to me. So the mask, again, isn't stopping anybody from getting the virus. Again, this is just simple critical thinking, but when you make people, this is the thing, any of you wants to sell anything. If you want to move people to action, you just got to get them emotional. And it doesn't have to be a logical, emotions don't have to be logical or rational and don't have to make any sense. People stop thinking critically when you make them afraid or angry or excited. So you do anything, you get people in any one of these states, they will not think critically about anything that you say. You be saying some complete bullshit and they will buy it simply because they're emotional. This is human nature. Manika, well, I like to do these, I'm going to try to do these once a week, Manika, these lives. I like these. Y'all ask some good questions. Ashley said, "What's the future of USA with the woke agenda?" It depends. It depends, Ashley. It depends on who's in charge. Because right now, Joe Biden is in charge and Joe Biden is woke. But when Donald Trump was in charge, this shit wasn't happening. So it depends on who's in charge. So we're going to see what happens this fall when they had those midterm elections. And I think it's going to change some people's tone. But we'll see. We'll see. DW said, "Well, when you can check them out, they're too funny. They're funny and satirical." I believe you, DW, but I'm gonna be honest, I probably won't. I don't watch a lot of riffraff. I agree with you. They probably are funny. There's a lot of funny people on the internet, and I don't really watch a lot of riffraff. I read books. I've been taking courses. I do a lot of business trainings. I'm a part of people's memberships and stuff like that. That's really what I spend my time doing. The only time I'm on here is when I'm talking to y'all. I don't get on here I don't be watching other people's shit, honestly. Andre Penny said the same shit happened to me. What shit you talking about? DW says, "On the airplane, I got scolded by the flight attendant because the mask was below my nose and I was ordering food. I was ordering food to remove the mask." Yeah, they was getting crazy on airplanes with that. I heard. At least I heard. And it says okay for a temporary time. Yeah, they're still doing that stuff. They're still doing that stuff with the mask shit on planes. So that's why women be getting pregnant by dudes that don't have two nickels to rub together. They trigger them feelings. Facts. So he said, what's the topic about? Well, we already talked about everything, so I was just answering some questions at this point. Let me see what we got over here on YouTube. I know we had some questions some comments on YouTube. On YouTube, I don't know how I can see the comments. Where are the comments at? So I got YouTube running on over here on my iPad. I'm trying to see all the comments. I got a lot of comments on here, so I didn't even see them. I didn't even see all these. So shout out to y'all on YouTube. I didn't even see y'all comments. So let me answer some comments on YouTube. Amadou says, when I finish, I'll talk about the Orlando incident. I don't know what the Orlando incident is. What incident? Do I think Chris should have pressed charges? No. I don't think he should have pressed charges because he wasn't injured. I don't think he should have pressed charges. I think it's fine to not press charges. You press charges if you think somebody was really, if you're really injured, or you think it's somebody who needs to be like put behind bars so that they can't hurt anybody else. I don't think Will Smith is that kind of threat. So no, I don't think you should have pressed charges. I'm all right with no charges being pressed. I don't like how YouTube does this. The comments just disappear every time. You want one of these hats? Go to workonyourgame.com/merch. MERCH. Merch. Workonyourgame.com/merch. So I don't think they want qualified women. She's a woman. Everybody's thinking that it's a man's sport. They trying to do something. But football is a man's sport. How many women players are there in the NFL? 0. So yes, it is a man's sport. They're not thinking that. That's a fact. Let's see. I see Jamal Crawford retired. Yeah, but Jamal Crawford was already out the league for the last couple of years. So I mean, his retirement just made it official. So I don't think they're telling the truth and sound without. Yeah, you're right. All right, so I answered everything. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, y'all. We went about 90 minutes here. I appreciate everybody's time and attention here. I'm going to try to do these lives like once a week on weekends. I can take a little bit of time, an hour or so, talk about current events. As long as there's some current events happening, from what I see, it's usually a current event taking place. So as long as there's something to talk about, I'll come on here, talk to y'all, answer some questions, get some conversation going. I wish I could have got Brandy to come on because she's LGBTQ. I want to get somebody who's LGBTQ to come on here who can talk reasonably and respectfully about the subject because I have questions. So we'll see if we can get to that at one point. But we'll see. We'll get there at one point. And that's that, everybody. Tim Grover said high emotions cover the hard truth. That's a fact. So everybody, appreciate y'all time. I will put this will be on in the whatever they call it, IG Live tab on Instagram. I am going to download the video. I'm going to put it up on YouTube as well. So if any of y'all just follow me on YouTube and you can watch this video. Just look up my name. It'll be easy to find. Everybody have a great week. And oh yeah, text me. Get my daily motivation text. Let me put my number for my daily motivation. It is 305-384-6894. I send that out every single day for free to everybody in my text community. I want to get that daily motivation. Just text me at that number. Y'all get it every single day for free. And my next live event for all the thought leaders, entrepreneurs, brand builders, that is workonyourgame.live. Work on your game. We out of here. Enjoy all day.